Up hit the floor with a ringing sound that echoed in the air. Empty space rolled to bits, and my mad mind stopped right there. 被刺骨落地，像生命历历，虚空放碎，放心当下息。Hey, good morning, everybody. How are you all? It is a chilly morning here in the Gold Coast of Queensland, and I'm glad to be with you. My name is Heng. It is Saturday, September 16th here in the Gold Coast. Retrograde Mercury is officially over. You'll be happy to hear. It is Friday afternoon on the 15th of September in Berkeley, California, where maybe you can calculate where you are, what day it is. We're going to be looking into Master Empty Cloud's picture biography, pictorial biography, Xuyun Lecture的画传. And I want to express my gratitude right away to the kind folks who are translating into Chinese and into Vietnamese, the words that I'm saying in English. So most grateful for that service. And as we get going, let's see. We can do the rest of our protocols. Let's do the Dharma request first, and then we can get the Vietnamese link for translation happening in the chat box. Okay, now today, Vera from Sao Paulo, who is Mandarin is progressing at terrific rate, will be requesting Dharma. So let me ring the bell 3 times, make sure that I've got my original sound turned on. Yes, I do. Okay. So let's make 3 half bows from where you're sitting. Here we go. First bow. Second bow. And third bow. Okay. Vera, if you would like to request Dharma, please do it now.
清大的圣经，为谁发挥一切众生，清净妙法论教导我们如何了生脱死离苦得乐，速者无生。With the Sangha, with great virtue, out of compassion, for the sake of this assembly and all living beings, please turn the wonderful Dharma wheel to teach us how to live suffering and attain bliss and end birth and death, and quickly realize non-birth.
Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa.
Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa.
Homage to the blessed, noble, and perfectly enlightened one.
Homage to the blessed, noble, and perfectly enlightened one.
Namo sadanto suchedoye ulahudi samyao samputoshe.
Namo sadanto suchedoye alahoti samyao samputoshe.
无上甚深微妙法，百千万劫难遭遇。 我今见闻得受持，愿皆如来真实义. Supreme and wondrous Dharma, subtle and profound, rarely is encountered even in billions of eons. Now we see and hear it and accept it reverently. May we truly understand the Buddha's actual meaning. Okay, obrigado, and thank you. We should probably include a Brazilian Dharma request, a Portuguese Dharma request. If Vera's going to keep requesting Dharma every week, we're very grateful. So let me share with you that if you would like to hear a Vietnamese translation, go to the chat box, and there is a link right there for you. 如果大家愿意听中文流利的普通话啊，有翻译，有义工提供这个翻译，所以呢，你看这个控制板的右下角小地球那里就 click 就可以了啊，就按到那儿就有 Chinese 啊，可以听到中文。Alrighty, if you'd like to request Dharma, as Vera just did, please check the chat box. It'll tell you how to do that. Okay, moving forward here. We want to get to the Kombumerri people. We have a new... Okay, I'm going to copy... let's see here. No, that's not the way to do it. I'm going to copy this, paste it in... Oh, don't do that. Come back here. Let's get that centered. That's centered. I want to go into that and make a copy. I'm going to paste that in the chat box and ask our tireless, energetic translation team to, let's see here. There we go. There we are. And maybe I can send that to everybody just while we're at it. We need to get a better, a more streamlined acknowledgement of country. There we go. Okay. So let's bring that up on the screen. We respectfully acknowledge the Kombumerri people of the Ugambe language region as the traditional storytellers and custodians of a land where our monastery is located. Is that the way to say it? We pay respects to elders past, present, and emerging, and to all First Nations people whose sovereignty was never ceded. Kombumerri 人在他们祖先的土地上修炼着他们与土地和万物精神联系已有数万年。今天我们承认他们是这些土地的传统监护人和原始讲故事的人，并且向他们过去、现在和新兴的长老们，我们表示敬意，以及主权从未被割让的所有第一民族人民们表示敬意。There we go. Bells sound wide resounds throughout 100 million worlds. The Buddha's law is heard and spread all throughout the triple world. The wondrous sounds that everywhere fill the Dharma realm with peace. May those who hear it gain the strength to follow in faith the Buddha's path. "众生传3000界内，佛法扬万亿国中，共训其法界和平，利益报他诺后者。" There we go. Save those changes, you bet. Okay. There we are. Okay, wonderful. We have a volunteer to request Dharma all the way from Norway next week. Petter is going to try. That's terrific to go from Norway to Brazil. We have had Dharma requests from Hanoi, Vietnam before, all the way down here to the Gold Coast. Doing good. Now, what I've decided is I want to pronounce my Chinese correctly in the biography reading, the Chinese biography. So in advance, I go here and read, I research the characters first. So the ones I don't know, there we go. Let's make that, yeah, that's nice and clean. Okay, I go through and check my tones and check my pronunciations, and this way I learn the characters that I don't recognize, and you have to see them a certain number of times before you remember how they're pronounced. So I've done that here with the Chinese. If you all don't mind, you can learn how much Chinese I don't know by the number of characters I have romanized and put the tone marks to. So here we go. This is Master Empty Cloud story number 7 out of 200, out of 200 some, 120 some. 道光30年，庚戌，公复回泉州。祖母周年老，望见孙熙之心神切。以公兼挑，计属委定2事，一为田氏，一为谭氏。2事皆湖南乡籍，仕宦裕民，本为世交，父称亲眷，循父母之命，媒妁之言，订婚纳礼。And then Shifu made the made a verse commentary to this anecdote. 一儿世家书田伦，游贤真敬女中应，敬业元修法伴侣，无人无家五色空。Okay, shrink that back, and betrothal to 2 girls aimed at carrying on the lineages of 2 families. In the 30th year of the Daoguang reign period, which was 1850, when the master was 11 years old, his father returned to Quanzhou. The aging grandmother of the Zhou clan was determined that her grandson would have a wife. In order to continue his uncle's lineage as well, the master was to become heir to 2 lineages. And so it was that 1 woman from the Tian family and 1 from the Tan family were promised in marriage. Both families, originally from Xiang County in Hunan province, were mandarins residing in Fujian province and had remained friends for generations. All of the relatives and in-laws approved of the father's choices. So, following the orders of his parents and the words of the matchmakers, he was betrothed. The verse goes, it's proper and fitting that families should accord with natural relations. Quiet and graceful, chaste and tranquil, they were exceptional women. Pure in action, perfecting cultivation, they were comrades in the Dharma. Without any selves, without any home, without any form or space. Take a look at the picture. Now, in the background, these illustrations are very pictorial. They tell the story. They narrate what's going on. So if you look carefully, you can get the gist without even reading the Chinese. So here's an elegant home. Look at the the beauty of the walls. Look at the size of the plantings. Look at the kind of floor, the tile, the artwork, the lamps hanging from the ceiling. This is a fancy house. This is a house of an official, obviously. This is a government public servant who has substantial salary. What else is going on? We have an elder gentleman in his Mandarin robes with his Mandarin hat sitting under a plant, looking very prosperous. Here we have someone who looks like she might be a wife sitting facing him, and there's an elderly woman here as well. That's in the background, and they look like they've just finished business. And coming out in the foreground are two men, businessmen, probably. They have their heads shaved back into a queue, so you know it's the 19th century, and they're holding something in their hands, which is an important document for a family. It's a engagement notice. Papers are signed. So they're holding it like a treasure. They're holding it like a baby, because having promised your son or your daughter to marriage is a big deal in China, in traditional countries, cultures worldwide for sure. But in China, oh my goodness, once you've been promised in marriage, two houses are joined. And this is a culture of arranged marriages. So to be a matchmaker, anybody who's seen Fiddler on the Roof, you know about Yenta. Matchmaker, matchmaker, make me a match, right? So, find me a husband, catch me a catch. So here they are. These are the matchmakers coming out of the house. Oh, big deal. They go announce it. This is gossip for the neighborhood for weeks and weeks, talking about the children and their future together, and the families together, and the fortunes, and the timing, and the customs, and all of the stuff, right? So that's the picture. Now, what in the world? We're studying the life of a famous monk, of a distinguished Sangha member, and he's got two wives? What? That's a different kind of Sangha than we're used to, isn't it? No, this is traditional China. And the mother of his paternal grandmother is concerned as she's passing on. She feels like it is her job to ensure that her bright grandson is well married. Okay, so what do grandmothers do? They look ahead and get you a wife. So it's this custom is pretty much. I don't think anybody does fixed marriages anymore. I haven't heard of it. The the ideal of love, romantic love, has replaced this custom pretty much. So the aging grandmother determined her grandson had a wife, and notice Shifu just mentions it here, in order to continue his uncle's lineage as well. So there was an uncle who had, I don't know all the details. Maybe I could have dug it up. Maybe I should. Maybe somebody knows online. Does anybody know the story of how this happened? But there was an uncle in the family who if if there was no marriage, his family line, marriage, creating descendants, creating children with his name. his family line would have died off. So the way it was done then was some male in the family could take two wives, and one of the wives would be a proxy for the husband who has the man with two wives would be the proxy for both male lineages, the surnames of the family. The children that came from that marriage would carry on the lineage of the missing male. Okay, does that make sense the way it's done? So people think, wowee, I get two wives. Well, we'll find out that wasn't what Master Empty Cloud, Master Xiao had in mind. That's not what he wanted. So I won't spoil the story as we go. But look at this. You get engaged to two young women. So one was the Tian family girl, the other was the Tan family girl. If Madalena is listening, she'll be pleased that she's related to one of Master Empty Cloud's fiancés. And look at how it's done here. This is so interesting. In China, traditional culture, a place where humanity has been working out how you live as a human being they can trace it back 5,000 years. Of course, it goes back before history was recorded. So for a very long time, in this country, a culture has been evolving with, mind you, one language behind it. It's many variations of Chinese, but the Chinese characters have been uniting this culture for thousands and thousands of years. In a culture, in a country like that, where you come from matters a lot. Even though they say it is one Chinese language, often they say you could go from one valley to the next valley and the people would not be able to understand each other. Lots of local dialects. And, excuse me, bug in my throat. The local dialects represent local cultures, and the cultures all have different characteristics. These people are particularly warlike. These people are particularly shrewd in business. Be careful at the festival time, when you come down to trade and do business at the marketplace. They are very sharp. These people create the best horses. These people have been the best farmers for generations. These people love to travel, to do business. They're traveling merchants, right? So every culture, every valley, every state, which evolved later into states or kingdoms, had its own quality, its own special traits. And, for example, it's often said that beautiful women come out of Dongbei. Somebody is laughing now. I can hear you laughing. So that's what they say, that if a beauty who goes on to become a movie star or a celebrity, often the women will come from Dongbei. They say people from Hunan often have peppery tempers, fiery tempers, quick to move emotion. And people will say, well, of course, it's because of all the pepper that they eat. Their food is so hot in Hunan, they spice it so heavily that, of course, the people, right? So they often say that down in the southeast, in Fujian and in Guangdong, people there are very refined and elegant, that they have, the food is very well cooked and very well chopped, very delicate, lots of variety and spices, not hot but flavorful. Whereas up in the far north, they grow wheat, and so They don't eat that much rice. They eat lots of wheat products. There's rice as well, but breads and cakes and yobing and things like that. And so the people are considered very straightforward and honest, and the kind of people who you'd want to recruit them as soldiers or as explorers from the north. So that's been the case, that where you come from matters a lot, and it travels with you even if you move. So look, these two girls, Miss Tan and Miss Tian, originally were from Hunan, but they lived down in Fujian, down in the south. The two of them were friends. And so somehow the matchmakers knew about them and said, oh, you want to stay friends? You can stay friends even into marriage. Here's your husband. So the relatives looked at the young Master Empty Cloud of the future and said, he's a good match. You could do much worse than marrying with this young man. So the parents said, yes, you're going to marry these two girls in the future. He was betrothed. Did they ask the kids? Nope. Did you get to vote? Nope. You were engaged. It's called matchmaking. Arranged marriages. Oh boy. You think about that, and it's funny because if you mention this to probably pretty much anybody in the modern world and say your parents will determine who you marry, the answer would come down, you kidding me? No way. I have had Tinder on my phone for so long. No. Or they would say, I'm not getting married. I'm Generation Z. We're not planning. We see no future. So what's the point of marrying? That would be the modern answer. This idea of matchmaking is not unique to China by any means. India very much practiced matchmaking, and sometimes children were promised to each other before they reached 10 years old. The families wanted to make the relationships. So there is lots and lots of evidence that this is a very successful way to create lasting families. It sounds, at the beginning, it sounds terrible. There are many, 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 many stories that an arranged marriage creates long-lasting bonds. And, mind you, it's important to note that the children who were promised didn't live alone under one roof. These weren't husband and wife units. These were family units, extended family units. So when you married, indeed, you and your wife were the primary bond, but behind you both were grandparents, uncles, nephews, nieces, servants, laborers. Under one family roof would be many, many individuals, many people. So if your arranged marriage didn't work out as romance, although romance often bloomed after you got to know someone, it didn't matter so much because you had lots and lots of other people sharing a single surname under your roof, and you could find companionship and stimulation and partnership with other members of your extended family. Plus, you had the supervision of elders around you, your grandparents, watching you, guiding you, correcting you, judging your talents, giving you a chance to contribute to the family. So it's the arranged marriages didn't arise in a vacuum. So I am not qualified to talk about it because I never married, but there are things to be said for arranged marriages. So Brian says he was adopted by his uncle and became his heir. Is that how it worked? Okay. I need to know more. Val points out that the new trend is selective corporate marriages. Selective corporate marriages. Does that mean groups of people get married together? Or not sure how that works. Okay. All right. I will track that down, Brian. Adopted by his uncle and became his heir. Okay. That would account for it, wouldn't it? All right. Next one. Please do, when you have comments or questions to contribute, type them right in. I want to know them. I want to learn them. We're learning as we go. Here we go. Number 8. Bring that up. 咸丰元年2月因事公赴台湾，共议结望，乘小洋船航至茫茫无际大海，途见如山横阻之巨鲸，长达数里，众皆谓之，同声称念南无大悲观世音菩萨名号，须臾见其经纬没于海中。Shifu's verse says, 天龙恭敬不为喜，巨鲸朝拜亦平常，愚者无知诚为怪，智者有言充法缘。Okay, Shifu's verses are just so good. Wow. Okay. A huge whale yielded to the Dharma boat. In the second lunar month of the first year of the Xianfeng reign period, this is the Qing dynasty. So Master Empty Cloud was born into the imperial times. Went through the Republican period and then on to 1959. Went through the communist victory in the mainland. So 1851, the master's father went to Taiwan to conduct some business. He took his son, who was 12 years old, with him. They boarded a small ocean-going vessel and sailed into the open sea. They were down in the south, where they soon encountered a monstrous whale which looked as broad as a mountain. All on board became alarmed, and all together they began to recite the name of the greatly compassionate Avalokiteshvara Bodhisattva, Guan In a short time, the whale sank into the depths. Verse: if the dragons in the heavens bow, don't be delighted. How much more is the arrival of a giant whale nothing but a common affair? Foolish people do not know and think of this as strange, while those who understand have eyes and tap the Dharma's source. Here's the picture. So you're on the broad sea between the mainland and Taiwan, across the Taiwan Straits, probably going to Keelung up in the north, possibly to Kaohsiung down in the south. The people on the boat, here's Master Empty Cloud's dad with his palms together, bowing to something that's under the water. Oh man, something huge. It's a whale. People are not bowing to the whale, they're bowing to Guanyin Bodhisattva, saying, Namo Guanyin Pusa, Namo Dabe, Guanyin Pusa, Joku Jonan, save us from disaster. They are afraid of the whale, because why? It's the biggest thing. It's huge. Whales are huge. I'm going to I might have done this beforehand, but it just occurred to me. going out to Facebook. And Facebook, I'm going to Jody Friediani. Here's Jody. Jody is a photographer par excellence in the Bay Area. And I saw a video on her site the other day. She's a tremendous photographer of dolphins, killer whales, orcas, pods of dolphins. Yes, here we are. A large, let's see, I don't think I'll ever get enough of whales surface feeding. We found a large group, 15 to 20 humpback bubble net feeding day after day along the north shore of Kuprianof Island in southeast Alaska. Since our little group had the sole goal of seeing bubble net feeding, we were all in heaven. Here are a few of the images taken that day. Whales. Humpback whales. Look at them. Ayo. Scary? Maybe, if you're in the boat, depending on the size of your boat. Here they are, and they're all coming up together. They're standing on their tails just below the surface of the water. This is Alaska, and 15 to 20 of these absolutely huge creatures. They go north and south here in the Gold Coast, so you can often see whales going up and down. There are whale tours here in the Gold Coast, so whales are not uncommon. Anyway, this whale that emerged alongside the boat containing Master Empty Cloud and his father was a giant. Oh my goodness. When you see a whale, especially when they breach, it's indescribable because of the size and because you can't see past the surface of the water, and they come out from below where you can see into the air and breach. Oh man, it's just, oh, and they're glisten, and depending on the age of the whale, they're covered in barnacles, and they're truly otherworldly. Having a whale breach beside you, I went out on a whale. You're hearing a turkey run down my deck. That's turkey footsteps. We went out on a whale viewing expedition with Sam's school, and we were lucky enough the whales were there, and they breached, and they played with our boat. They were curious. There was one young whale. It wasn't the biggest of them, but it was the most active, and it kept popping up and checking us out above the water. And here's this intelligent, vast, huge being. And I have to say, as the whale made contact with us, it was curious. It was checking us out. My thoughts were, don't kill it. Don't look at it as food. Let's keep this being alive in the water. Humans have this habit of killing everything we meet. We are the most lethal species of all, no doubt. So, yeah. All right. There we go, huge whale. So interesting that the response of the people in the boat was fear, and it could be that their boat was tiny, not tiny, but an ocean-going vessel, and that was they were afraid that the whale would tip them over. Usually, the only time that would happen would be if it was mating season and a ship found its way between two males who were competing for the attention of a female. That might be, and if the boat gets capsized, it could be just collateral damage because whales were doing their whale business in your neighborhood. You sailed into their courting arena. That might happen. But whales, another possibility would be if you got between a mother and her baby and were threatening them. But as I understand it, whales have a lot of discretion. They are not kind of blunt instruments. They're not brute beings. They are very aware of what's going on around them. They have to be, because there are things that will attack whales, such as orcas, killer whales. So it's much more likely that the humans are a threat to the whale than the whale is going to harm the humans. Okay? So now, as I look at the time here, I realize that maybe 3 of these per session might be suitable. I prepared 2, but we have enough time to do 1 more, and we should. Now, I didn't prepare the Chinese here, so let's see how well I do, all right? 公年13岁，祖母周太夫人去世。公遂夫服下回向安葬，请僧做佛事。公初见佛起拜，看经子喜，度僧木僧恭敬，一切法器把玩不舍。若有感悟而不自知之状态。And the verse goes, 永信孝思古今传，慎终追远报恩律。报恩律五，扬称三昧加持力，河沙罪业悉消除。First meeting with the Triple Jewel. When the master was 13, his grandmother Zhou died. He accompanied his father to escort the coffin back to Xiangxiang County for burial. The Sangha was invited to perform Buddhist rites. Upon first seeing an image of the Buddha, the master immediately bowed. The sight of the sutras elated him, and when he met the Sangha, he acted with deference. He tried each of the ceremonial instruments and did not want to stop playing them. It was as if he had suddenly come to an understanding, and yet he himself did not appear to be aware of it. The verse says, eternal words, filial thoughts, are transmitted from past to present. He carefully performed ancestral rites, sincerely repaying compassion. Relying upon Samadhi's power of aiding and maintaining, offenses as numerous as Ganges sands were completely wiped away. Look at the photo, the picture, not the photo, the etching, the ink, the woodblock. So the story goes, let's see, what do we have? We have a funeral. You can tell there's incense burning in front of pieways here in the back. The family have their heads down. There is a family member at the table burning probably plaques here, and there are monks. You can tell they're monks because they have burn scars in their heads, they're wearing robes, they're sitting in order, and they are reciting sutras at a table. This is what monks do currently. They perform funerals, and Master Hua was careful not to set this up as a practice as Buddhism enters America, because he didn't want, at the beginning of the introduction of the Dharma, he did want sutras, wisdom, compassion, education, translation, interfaith, and service to be the job of the Sangha. He wanted to redefine the Sangha away from what was known derisively in China as Ganjing Chan, hustlers of sutras and repentances. Many families in China assumed that that's what monks and nuns do, is they chant for the dead, or they do a repentance for the dead. The only time you see a monk is when someone dies. Otherwise, the monks are off there eating and doing who knows what. Master Hua wanted to redefine the job of the Sangha, and so his 4 legacies that he set up of building monasteries and defining cultivation, of educating people, of translating and propagating the Sutra Dharma, and of pursuing interfaith, exchanging with other religious folks. This is how Master Hua defined the work of the Sangha. If someone dies, of course, we attend to the family in the monastery. People come to the monastery, they learn to bow, they learn where the Wangsheng, the rebirth hall is, they learn to make offerings, they come and support their family members themselves with the guidance of the Sangha, but they don't pay the monks to recite a sutra for someone. That's, the monks become kind of paid funeral masters, undertakers. So, yu, okay, got it. Thank you, Jenny. That word is read yu, okay. 山众绝缘报恩语, right. So, that's one thing. 2 points about this episode. One is that the death of the grandmother followed pretty quickly after she arranged for the fiancé, after she arranged their marriage, the betrothal. So she wasn't wrong that taking care of that was a good thing to do, because she wasn't long for the world. And that the interestingly, where was the grandmother buried? Back in Hunan. So the master's father was posted down in Fujian, which is, if you put a map of China over a map of America, it would be down in the southeast. So he might be in Atlanta, he might be in Tallahassee, he might be in Miami, in the southeast. And he had to go back home to Hunan to bury his mother in her ancestral home, back where she came from. I mentioned at the start of the lecture about the importance of your identity with the land, that you are associated with a place, and that place can be, you may not have spent much of your life there at all, but that's where your ancestors are. And that you trace that back as far as you can. So it could be 200 years previous. Your ancestor came from Hunan or Hebei or Shandong, and that's where you go back. So the father took his mother back to the ancestral home up in Hunan. Hunan, let's see, if we're putting a map of China on top of a map of America, Hunan would probably be in Kansas City, if I'm not wrong. So sort of northern central China. Okay, that's one. Number 2, this is that important moment when Master Empty Cloud first encountered Buddhism. And notice the behaviors that the story identifies. He saw a Buddha image, he bowed to it. He saw the Sangha, he was thrilled. He respected them, and then immediately wanted to learn what the wooden fish and the bells were about. He wanted to make the noises himself. He put his hands on them and used them to. He stepped right into the role of the Sangha. And Shifu's, the way he describes it he says it was ruo yo ganwu. It's as if he woke up a little bit, but he wasn't aware of what he found so fascinating with these strange people, their strange behaviors, and the things they brought. He wasn't quite aware. It hadn't appeared from within. The seeds hadn't arisen quite yet from within his consciousness. But Shifu's verse says, how does the verse go? Yangcheng San Mei Jia Chi Li. He depended on, he was carried by the Jia, the blessing power of samadhi from the past to mold his mind now. And by doing that, look what happened. Ganges River sands of offenses were wiped away. So even with the being born in the unusual circumstances that he was born in, even with the amazing connections he had with Buddhism from the past, still in this lifetime, there were offenses that are carried in the eighth consciousness that you still have to purge and purify. And he did that by, his first steps towards it were seeing the Sangha and interacting. Oh, I guess this young fellow here on the left corner, that must be the young monk. That's the young master. He's already got his hair, he's now 13, and he's got his hair in the adult male's hairstyle of a queue down the back. Okay, there we go. Yeah. So, how significant is that first encounter with the Sangha? One of the lessons, because we're looking at a life story. This is how the 20th century's, the 19th and 20th century's most famous monk lived his life. So, alrighty, Cliff, appreciate that. There it is. Okay, I'll look at that, our translation. So, one of the things we can do is ask ourselves, when did I first encounter Buddha, the Dharma, the Sangha? When did I first develop an interest in these teachings and these ways of living and these values and these principles and truths? What was it? What was the event that triggered my first encounter, my first understanding of what I wanted to do with my life, to include Buddhism in it? You can tell me next week. Alrighty. How did you like the sound of Empty Cloud Wakes Up?
弟子不落地，向生命历历，虚空粉碎也，放心当下心。
Okay, there we are. We're going to be listening to that as we progress into the biography. That's the English language version of Master Empty Cloud's 2 Enlightenment poems coming up. Right. So, thank you all for joining. And again, for the volunteers who put this lecture series out into the world, for the translators who make it possible for people speaking Chinese and Vietnamese to hear, for the administrators who keep us all informed, I want to extend my gratitude and appreciation. truly 功德无量. Can we, each of us, make a wish and send out our goodness to the world? Here we go. May every living being, our minds as one and radiant with light, share the fruits of peace with hearts of goodness, luminous and bright. If people hear and see how hands and hearts can find in giving unity, may our minds awake to great compassion, wisdom, and to joy. May kindness find reward. May all who sorrow leave their grief and pain. May this boundless light dispel the darkness of our endless night. Because our hearts are one, this world of pain turns into paradise. May all become compassionate and wise. May all become compassionate and wise. May all become compassionate and wise. Let's hope it becomes so, each of your wishes in turn. And I'll ring the bell and we can bow to the Buddhas together. Bow in respect to the Venerable Master. Alrighty, that will do it for us for today. See you all in the Avatamsaka Sutra lecture. You have a choice of two of them. The Entering the Dharma Realm chapter and the 10 Transferences chapter, both available on YouTube at Dharma Realm Live and at CTTB Live. Thanks for joining, everybody. See you all next week. Have a week full of blessings and wisdom. Amitofo. Bye now.